Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's Grow Wealthy Grooming. And this is your host, Riverly. Hello. So, a little bit about me for those of you guys who have never met me. I own a feline exclusive mobile grooming business. I've been in the industry over 10 years. I am a certified feline master groomer. I have managed a doggy daycare. I've pretty much done everything. And don't mind me, I'm petting my standard poodle. She's been very needy. I've been gone for almost 20 days in October, and she was scratching at the door. She wanted to come in and say hi. So I'm just loving up on her. She's being so sweet. But anyway, guys, so let's go ahead and begin with this topic. This week's topic is why do I keep attracting the wrong clients? I am going to be reading my notes as well as having the comments. So feel free to put any comments or questions on the right side. If there are comments that are not exactly aligned with what we're talking about right now, don't worry. Go ahead and type them in, and we can always go over them at the end. If they're as part of this talk, we'll go through them right then and there. So let's start talking about why you keep attracting the wrong clients. And everyone's clientele is going to be different. So when I say the wrong clients, I did a 3-part series that talked about 3 main kind of clients. I talked about, just to give you a quick overview, I talked about McDonald's clients, and those are clients that want cheap, convenient, low effort kind of clients. And in the grooming industry, those are the clients that generally end up at Petco, or if you work at a company that pays cheap and they do a lot of dogs. So they might do, you might be doing 10, 12 dogs a day. And that's a lot of dogs. Like I can do probably 7 at best. And then there are people who are kind of Dunkin' Donuts. For those of you guys that don't have local Dunkin' Donuts, they may be your Tim Hortons or another mid-range coffee company. And when I say that, and again, in this analogy, we're talking about all 3 of these companies sell coffee. They just sell coffee to different people. So the Dunkin' Donuts clients, it's more about being regular. It tends to be somebody who's going to get their coffee and then go ahead to work. So they want convenience, yes, but they want consistency, and they want to pay what they consider a reasonable amount. They're not super fussy on the quality, but they want the quality to be consistent. And then I also talk about Starbucks clients. Now, as somebody who has a real Starbucks addiction, I not only want my coffee to be regular, I want them to know my name. So when I walk in, they're like, "Hey, River." I love that. They say the usual. I'm like, yes. So that clientele is going to pay more. Tonight, I had a quad, which is a little bit much. Don't do quads before going live. But I kind of needed it today. It's been a little bit of time. And so I paid a lot of money. So if I had gotten a quad, let's say at Dunkin' Donuts, it probably would have been $2 or $3 less, which considering it's about a $7 drink, that's almost a 50% cut. That's incredible when it's literally almost half at one place versus double at another. And again, I do that because I like the consistency. I like when I go in there, I'm treated a certain way. And depending upon the person's seasonal life and what they value, that client is going to be attracted in that way. So since we talked about coffee, and I know we want to talk about the grooming industry, but I think some people take things a little too personally when we talk about our own industry. I know how difficult it can be to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And we have all these reasons that our specific situation is it. So when we look at somebody else's industry, it's easier to go, I see what you're saying. So let's go ahead and work through that. I thought a really interesting way of talking about that, and again, I'm just moving my notes, is to talk about a laundromat. Now, I know you think I'm crazy, but so I live in a very touristy area, but it has a lot of very wealthy people. And I go to the UPS store often. I'm constantly mailing packages. And next to it is what I would consider a high-end laundromat. And I've talked a few times to the owner, and it was interesting because, we didn't have a deep conversation about business, but there were concerns that he had, and I could tell he wasn't attracting the right client. But these are the thoughts that I had, and I thought they would be very helpful to my students. And I'm going to take a sip really quick. So I want you to think about a laundromat. In general, let's be honest. Is a laundromat considered a high-end service? Generally, it's not. So could you could be the most high-end posh laundromat and you may not still get your ideal client. So you might be thinking, okay, well, I'm in a rich area. I have these beautiful, seats, these brand new washing machines. They're high-end washing machines. You can steam things, you can do this, you can do that. Why aren't my clients coming in? Well, first of all, you also have to think about, and again, use this analogy for your business. Is this laundromat in an area where wealthy people live? So in this case, yes, the laundromat was in a place that people that have money live. Perfect. Okay. And then the next question for this person would be, do wealthy people in this area not have washer and dryers? So typically somebody who's washing their clothes that doesn't have a washer and dryer. Who are these people? Right? When you're starting to think about these services, and you can think about these services like grooming pets. Let's be honest. If you're shaving down a dog, like so, my standard poodle is actually in a really sad little lamb clip, not literally a lamb clip, like I call her a sacrificial lamb clip. Because I was gone for 20 days and my pet sitter didn't brush my dog because that's never happened. So, with that, I want you to think to yourself, okay, so in this analogy, do wealthy people in this area not have washer dryers? And then think about in your area, whether it's wealthy people or regular people, do people wash their own dogs? Okay. So when I say these analogies, go ahead and start thinking about in our industry, ways that people may or may not be doing the things that we want them to. Okay. So in my area, a lot of people don't have washer and dryers. Why? Because there's a lot of people that come in and out on boats. And some of the boats do have washer and dryers, but a lot of them don't. You have a lot of people staying at Airbnbs that may or may not have washer and dryers bed and baths or bed and breakfasts rather. And so they might be staying at a really nice area and not have access to a washer and dryer. Okay, so we have 2 check marks, positives. This is a wealthy area and people may have a reason not to have a washer and dryer. Okay, so then you have to honestly stop and think to yourself, are wealthy people in this area likely to take their clothing to the laundromat, put it in a washer, leave it, or hang out for like an hour, and then come back and switch it into the dryer? And this is where things start to get dicey. So the first 2 things were like, yep, yep. And then now you have to honestly think about that. If somebody has the kind of money that this person's trying to attract, are they actually going to do this? And if they are, is this only when their washer and dryer breaks? Could they make this client a regular client? And that's an honest question because someone coming in and out on a boat isn't a regular client. Someone coming in for an Airbnb, they're not a regular client. So this person would have to constantly be getting new clients. And even then, those new clients, are they really that excited or happy about the product? Because then they're going to have to sit around or leave their expensive clothing in the washer and then come back. And especially that time of year where we have a lot of tourists, it can take a long time to get from one side of the city to the other. So they may just end up in traffic. It sounds like a lot of hassle. And a lot of the reasons that we get high-end clients is because they want us to do a service because they don't want to do it because they don't want to waste their time. They'd rather spend money instead of their time. Okay. So we've said that maybe or they may not want to do that. Okay. And then you also want to think about, again, if they have expensive clothing, are they going to feel comfortable leaving their expensive clothing in the washer dryer? Again, we're not talking about, $1,000 blouses because you wouldn't throw that in a washer. But if I'm a wealthy person, let's say I have a couple of $100 pair of jeans, do I want to leave them in a washer and then leave it? I could be leaving, $1,200 worth of clothing in a washer. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. Would they feel safe doing that, knowing that there may or may not be an attendant or potentially someone could just steal my clothing? And then the other thing I want you to ask yourself is, if they're going to leave their clothing in the washer, is their clothing even washer safe? The more I'm learning about nice clothing, the more I'm realizing that it's a pain in the butt to wash. I thankfully rent all my stuff from Rent the One Way, which is amazing. But I'm always shocked at how delicate the clothing is, how easily, you could ruin it if you threw it in a washer. And a lot of these things are dry clean only. So even if you have this high-end clothing, I'm sorry, high-end people in this high-end area, are they actually going to use your service? Because do they even have the item that you want to service? And that's a great question. What if all these high-end people just get their clothing dry cleaned? So these are all great things to think about, right? So now that we've kind of stirred up these ideas, and again, I want you to think about your business as we're going through this and think about it very objectively. Don't take it personally. Start thinking about it from your perspective, because a lot of times we're so emotionally close to our business that we're unable to see beyond that. So let's talk about some of the ways that we could do better. So with this laundromat, if they want to offer these high-end services and get this high-end client, what could they do? And again, these may not exactly fit into your business, but start thinking outside the box. So this this laundromat could offer pickup and drop-off services because that honestly would help a lot. If they went down to the docks every morning, had a little van that picked up everyone's clothing, everyone knew they could meet them there, maybe by the local Starbucks. They're going to meet. We always pick up the clothes at 8 a.m. or even for a little bit more, we'll come right down to the dock and do that. And we do it once at night. They could do that. They could offer express services where someone could drop off their clothing and have an attendant do wash, dry, fold, where that person could come back and everything is done for them. That would be a great way to upgrade that service. They could be really knowledgeable about high-end materials and be able to take good care of those clients. As someone who knows so little about high-end materials, and the more I learn, the more it's this crazy rabbit hole. If I wanted to go to a high-end laundromat, I would actually go out of my way to pay them to take good care of those items, because to me, it would be better for them to take care of those items than for me to take care of them and potentially ruin them. And so that would be a great way to create, authority. And if they create authority, people would be more likely to go to them. And then they also most laundromats have some sort of dry cleaning service. So again, that's nothing new. So what could they do potentially to again attract those high-end clients? Doing something kind of niche, like offering dry cleaning using green products, could be a great way for them to grow their business and again become an authority and be more known. So I'm going to take a drink really quick. Poodle, I love you, but I can't pet you all the time. And then I'm going to talk more about the grooming industry. She's just literally like, no, I've never loved someone so much in my life. I know, you're very deprived, Poodle. Awesome. So now that you've kind of thought about your own business, let's talk about how this would translate into the grooming business. Okay. So if you want wealthy clients, are they in your area? Now, for some of you guys, they're not in your immediate area, but they're within a short drive. And a short drive is always relative to where you live. So I live in a 45-minute long state, and we would have sometimes 6 grooming salons within a 2-mile radius. That was me in the same exact street. We had 6 grooming salons, but that was okay because there was more than enough dogs to go around, and everybody had a different, honestly niche, which was fantastic. But I still would have clients that would drive 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away, which doesn't sound like a long drive, but in a 45-minute long state, it's a long drive. So if you live somewhere near those clients, they will come to you if they know where you are. And that brings me to your next point. If you do have, wealthy areas, you have to make sure that you're actually communicating to those wealthy areas that you are available there. Right? Because if they don't know you're there, then they can't use you. And I want you to think about, are you providing a service that is high end? Maybe you're really happy being, again, don't take it derogatory way. Maybe you're really happy being Dunkin' Donuts. Maybe you're really happy being McDonald's. There are grooming salons that are really good at being the Walmart of the grooming industry. And the tough part of that is that they try to generally compete with Petco or PetSmart or any of the pet somethings. And what they don't realize is that in the pet stores, they don't make their money on grooming. They make their money on other services like dog training. They make way more money selling people products like dog toys, leashes, collars, food. And their goal is for that customer to come in monthly. So they actually generally lose money on their grooming. So that's called a loss lead, where they have a service that loses money in order to get people in the door. And so a lot of times there'll be groomers who are grooming in this kind of, Petco style, or that's where they came from, and that's their strategies. And the tough part is that by doing that, they're going to burn out, honestly, because Petco doesn't care whether or not they make a profit on their grooming salon, because they're making a profit on their dog training. They're making a profit when people buy dog food, when people are buying toys and treats. And those toys are easily 300% marked up. Like, they're ridiculously marked up. And that's where they're making their money. They're not making their money in grooming. So if you're trying to compete with those kinds of companies, you are more likely to get burnt out, because you really can't. Like, there's not enough meat on the bone for you to make enough money. Or on the flip side, you may end up doing practices like not paying your employees correctly, like doing things like illegal independent contractors, or honestly having to do so many dogs that someday you're going to make a big mistake because you're just rushing so much. So that's where, if you're a McDonald's kind of client, if you want to have that Walmart kind of client, that is a viable business, but it generally doesn't work out long term. Now, in the middle, like Dunkin' Donuts kind of clients, those are actually very viable businesses. When I had my grooming salon, I had Dunkin' Donuts clients, and they were wonderful. I mean, they were very happy. I ended up moving into a more high-end situation when I started my monthly program, but I really loved those clients because they were really relaxed and really mellow, and I was always full, and they didn't require a ton of my personal time. The more high-end a client, the more needy they are, which is incredibly frustrating sometimes. So you don't have to offer high end. So when I'm talking about all high end stuff, it's honestly because there are so few groomers doing high end well. And high end does not mean, hoity toity. You don't need to be Tiffany's. But if you look at different companies, like, you can be a high end company and also be fairly rustic, if that makes sense. When I was in Nashville, Tennessee, I really enjoyed going around to what are some of the more expensive areas. And because Nashville is known to be kind of cowboy and rustic, very country, even though they were high end, they were rustic looking. So there's ways of doing that. You don't have to be glitz and glam in New York high end. You can definitely find rustic high end. Like, I hate to say shabby chic, because I don't like shabby chic stuff, but that very like cowboy with glitter look. Not in the gaudy way. But so, yeah, decide if you do want a high-end service, and you don't have to. So don't worry about that. So when we're looking at this stuff, I want to ask you an honest question. Now, do you look high end? So what does that mean? If I walk into your salon, or your mobile, or if you come in house call, whatever your business model is, do you look high end? What does that mean? Is things clean, and do they smell clean? If I walk into your grooming salon, and I'm not talking at Saturday at like 2 when you're like 10 dogs deep and it's insanity, but if I walked into your shop, let's say you open at 8 and at 10 o'clock, is it clean, and does it smell like wet dog? If it's yes and yes, there's a problem. Your shop should not smell like dirty, wet dog, because it's disgusting. And generally speaking, it's really a big turnoff to high-end clients. I know there's nothing you can do if you get a skunk dog in, or there's nothing you can do if you have a client that it just has like that once a year newfie that just reeks, or that golden or that cocker that has that really disgusting yeasty smell. Sometimes there's really nothing you can do, but having things in place that don't have hair everywhere. Like when the client walks in, if they're walking on piles of hair, that's a problem. If the client walks in and they get smacked in the face with that wet, dirty dog smell, that's a problem. And I do find that we get immune to it because we're just in it every day. So making sure there are things in place that stop that, it makes a huge difference. One thing I will never forget, in my grooming salons, we always had the whole salon smell like cookies. Like we either used South Park blueberry facial, that smell, that I love that smell, like it's like blueberry and clove, or we would use like sugar cookie. And our shop always smelled like that. And people would walk in and go, wow, it smells delicious in here. And that immediately created trust. And it immediately puts us in a different category business wise. And you may think it makes no difference, but trust me, it makes a giant difference. The other question I have for you, do you and your employees have a professional appearance? Are they in t-shirts? Are they in jeans? Jeans are okay as long as they're not disgusting. If you are, I love grooming in jeans. So I like grooming in jeans because I don't like my legs all scratched up. But I a lot of times will wear jeans and then wear my swishies over it, my grooming pants over it, which gets really hot and it's miserable. But having wet, furry jeans is not attractive. Wearing a t-shirt that now you're covered in dog hair is not attractive, especially because, you're generally wearing like whatever tees you have. So they tend to be tattered or stained. They may have, I love funny t-shirts. Like I love like funny sayings on t-shirts. But, we also don't think about how that client is perceiving that. I think this t-shirt's funny and clever, but they may be like, wow, like my 13-year-old daughter would wear that. So immediately we go from being a professional to being somebody who is not an authority figure. And that is a big problem if you want someone to trust you enough to spend a lot of money on your service. So I'm a big fan of, these are Jody Murphy tops. These are my favorite tops. I really love vests, and the vests have pockets, which I'm a big fan of pockets. But there are lots of other companies that make really professional looking smocks, and I would personally strongly suggest picking a smock color that makes sense with your branding. If everything in your shop is, if your brand color is green, wearing a teal or a pink top doesn't really make sense. However, if you are mainly green and you want to wear brown, that makes sense. And don't go crazy with your colors looking like, like I want to say I love teal. I do love teal, but I would never do a teal top and bottom. I would do a teal top and then black pants, because too much teal, it's just a bit much. And don't pick colors that look unflattering to you. So I really look terrible in orange. I would never wear an orange smock. Why? Because I would look like an Oompa Loompa, and that is not attractive. So making sure that, and ideally in a perfect world, you and your employees would at least wear complementary things that you think it doesn't make sense, but then you actually look like you're working there versus, your daughter came home from school early and is now just helping out. And when you want to be treated like a professional, even people at McDonald's have uniforms. Think about that. And you can make the uniform simple, like, you can wear any smock in this color, or you can wear any black pants. So just think about things like that. The other thing I want you to think about with your branding is your branding considered vulgar or too cutesy that people can't take you seriously? Again, if I am a high-end client, let's just be very honest. Doggy style is gross. It's a sex position. It is not the name of a grooming salon. It's clever, sure, but in a vulgar way. And, I'm a cat exclusive groomer. There have been some names that people have thrown out at me for potential cat grooming businesses. I'm sure you can think of them, things like the wet pussy or the shaved pussy. That is not appropriate. Sure, it's clever, but it is not appropriate. Nobody wants to go, yeah, I'm dropping my cat off at the wet pussy. Nobody wants to do that. You know, and the people that think it's funny, again, you have to know your clientele. There are going to be people that think that's cute and it's funny. But is that your ideal client? Is your ideal client somebody who has no problem with being vulgar? And are you really that shocked when he makes an innuendo at your grooming salon when you called your grooming salon a sexual position? Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can't be mad that he makes a pass at you when you've literally called, you've given your salon that kind of name. I definitely cannot imagine telling my old school grandfather, yeah, I went and dropped my cat off at the wet pussy. Or, yeah, I just totally went and brought my dog to doggy style. Like, that's not cute. It's just not cute. Or on the flip side, if names are too cutesy, and we don't think about this a lot because we're all trying to be like clever, but sometimes names are just way too like silly. And I don't want to call anybody out in specifically, but we all know the names. It's like, Princess's Perfect Puppy. And you're just like, what adult woman in an executive suit is like, yeah, I bring my dog to Princess's Perfect Puppy. And I mean, can you imagine like just talking in a boardroom? Or if you own that business, I mean, it's so interesting when I go out of our industry into other places and we're talking about business names. They're like, yeah, you people make the most crazy names. They're like, it's ridiculous. And it's hard for them in other industries to take us seriously because you wouldn't call a coffee, like you might call like a coffee shop Cool Beans, but you wouldn't call it like, you know, um, you know, get away from the kid, so I can't even think of something clever. I'm so sorry. Trying to be smart. But I can't even think of anything like we do. We just make these like super cutesy names that are hard to find, hard to spell, and they're not really clear, but we're trying to be so clever, which is great. Being clever is fun, but being clear is more important. And speaking of being clear, is your website clear? I can't tell you how many people's websites I go to. I have no idea what is going on. So someone will send me their website and be like, "Oh, what do you think of my website?" And it's like this giant wall of text that I'm never going to read 4 paragraphs. That's not going to happen. If I go to the about me, it's like about groomer, certified groomer. It's like, okay, well, what organization? And a lot of times the information's not up to date. It's like, bath special, May 2015. And obviously that's like 4 years ago. And you're like, well, is there anything new? Or I can't figure out where the hell you guys are. How many times have you guys gone to a grooming salon? And they're like, yeah, it's in like the Rehoboth, greater Rehoboth area. And you're like, I'm not from this area. I have no idea where the greatest Rehoboth area is. Like, what state are you in? I have no idea. Like, or anything like that. Like, if I Google you, I should know what city and state you're in. If I have to search for that, that's a problem because someone trying to find you isn't going to find you if they have no idea where you're from. Or where's your phone number? A lot of websites, I have no idea what this person's phone. I have no way of contacting this groomer. There's no address, there's no phone number, there's no clear-cut way of contacting this person at all. And then when you Google them, because they have this really cutesy, clever name, I can't find them. And I did this myself. Like I had my business called Sheer Bliss, like sheer like scissors. And all my clients were so frustrated because they could not figure out what, like they would put in sheer SHEER and they would write, checks to that and it just got crazy. So eventually I said, okay, I need to like simplify this because clients are confused. And people that are confused don't buy. If they're confused, they don't buy. And that's the truth. So look through your website and really say, if I had no idea who you are, could I get an appointment? Why would I pick you? Is this clear and concise? And then I have like kind of a sensitive subject for a lot of people. And I don't want to sound rude and I don't want to sound mean, but we need to have a heart to heart. Um, don't have a logo that looks like it's a Disney character. There are so many groomers that have these awful looking logos that look like my son like went to class and came home with them. They're even if they're well done, I don't know many high-end people that are attracted to overly cartoony, weird logos. So if I look at high-end companies, Tiffany's, Nordstrom, Starbucks, I mean, we could keep going, like, Louboutins, anything like that. Their logos are simple, clean, easy to understand. They don't have crazy logos that look like anime characters or Disney characters. They don't. And a lot of that is because it's easy to translate on different items. So on boxes, on packaging, all these places. Even Starbucks's logo has changed over the year. If you look now, it's a little bit more modern. It's more simplistic than their original logo. And a lot of that is because, again, it's something that looks really clean and really simple. If you want to do something for, again, I have a beautiful picture of an exotic short hair for my grooming business. But what I don't, and it is fairly cartoon, but it's not overly done. That is something that, yes, is really nice looking and it does not look overly stylized. And that's something that I will put on certain things, but not everything. For the most part, my text is my main logo. And the reason for that is that my name is clear enough that without a picture of a pet, people know what I do. If without a picture of a pet, people don't have any idea what you do, that's a problem. It's a big problem because if people have no idea what you do by the name of what you have and they can't spell it, that creates a lot of confusion. And with your logo, if you want to be taken seriously, I want you to look at your Disney character style logo and go find me a brand that is not for little girls and that is made for grown-ups, like grown-up men or grown-up women that have logos similar to that. And figure out if that is what you're trying to attract. Because there are not many executive women who want a mobile van to show up at their house and it is like the super duper uber cutesy doggy. Again, and if they do, that's a very different clientele. You have a clientele that likes hot pink and, like Elle Woods. Elle Woods would like that from Legally Blonde, but if you're trying to get, again, I'm in New England, we have more Boston style women, which are more executive, more clean cut. They're going to wear black pantsuits or gray pantsuits. They're not going to be wearing pink head to toe. They don't want a pink bubbly van with cartoon-like characters showing up at their house. It would be embarrassing for them. And this is why knowing what your character, looks like compared to what somebody who is high end in your area would like. All right. So then I want you to ask yourself, do you act high end? And this is all subjective and this is it depends on where you live. So I'm from the Northeast of the US and I will say I am very to the point. We're very blunt. We don't like beating around the bush. We're just that kind of people. Now, that's what I need to know. Do I appeal? Does my mannerisms appeal to my ICA, which an ICA, for those of you that have never heard that term, is your ideal client avatar. So you should know your ideal client inside and out. I actually have a fake profile for my ideal client because then it's a lot easier for me to create anything because I know she would like it. So that said, would your ICA find the way you act appealing or would she find it vaguely offensive? Examples of that would be, I tend to be very much like, it is what it is. My clients are they appreciate the fact that I'm just very straightforward. So if I'm very straightforward, they really appreciate that. But maybe your clients need a little bit more kid gloves. Maybe your clients want a little bit more kindness and taking it easy. That depends on your area. Whoop, my dog's moving my chair. Sit down. Excuse you. You're very silly. So that's going to be important. Again, does the way you act, another way might be, are you swearing a lot? I tend to swear a little bit. And the more high-end clients I see, the less I have to swear. Why? Because generally speaking, blue collar people feel like you're real and you're cool. Not cool, like you're cool, but you feel more authentic when you swear. Like if I'm in a very blue collar area, people are swearing. Why? Because it's authentic. That's real. But the more executive you go to, that's not. We can swear at the grooming salon and no one's going to bother us. You can go swearing at the fire station, at the police station. You can be swearing on a construction site. You can't be swearing at a corporate level job where you're an executive convincing hedge funds to give you $1 million account. That person is used to being in an environment where people don't swear. So that's important to know. If you have a Walmart or Dunkin' Donuts client, they may see swearing as authentic. However, the more high end you go, they don't find it. They find it almost offensive. Another thing I want to think about is, do your policies reflect someone of that mindset? Again, someone who's more high end tends to be a little bit more high maintenance. And someone who's a little bit lower doesn't. So if you have a Walmart kind of business, which again, there's no offensive, do what you got to do. You're going to have to create policies that make sense. You wouldn't run a Walmart style business while telling everyone they have to come in every monthly. It doesn't make sense. If you have a, McDonald's, Walmart quantity thing, you're more likely to get clients that want to come in irregularly. They're every 4, 6, or 12-month clients. They're not monthly regular clients. And if you do get a monthly client, that's great. But the reality is that people shopping for a bargain or being a little bit cheaper generally are not going to stay on a consistent basis. You couldn't create a policy stating you have to come in monthly and then still being successful in that business model. Where high end, it's really easy to create that because you have already You've already created hey, sit down, behave yourself. Okay. You've already created a situation where you're creating exclusivity and a higher price point, so your policy is going to reflect that. On the flip side, hey, stop that. On the flip side, if you have a Starbucks style business, you may want to make sure that your policies are clear cut, but have a little bit more understanding. One thing I really struggle with as a more high end client is I find it very difficult to pick up my dog within 30 minutes of being a phone call because I'm busy. Like if I can't drop my dog off for anywhere between 2 and 4 hours and then only have 30 minutes to pick up my dog. You can't give me a 2-hour window and then expect me to drop everything and drive back. Why? Because I'm generally doing something else. I'm working on a call. I'm in the middle of eating lunch, like whatever it is. That's really difficult for higher end clients. So if you have even Dunkin' Donuts kind of thing, giving a client a more reasonable window is more realistic, or not charging somebody if they drop the dog off and can't get back within 30 minutes. So make sure your policies reflect that person's mindset. And then you also want to make sure, are you treating that client like a number or as a person? When I go into Dunkin' Donuts, I could either feel like a person or a number, depending upon that business. However, every time I go into McDonald's, every time I go into Walmart, I feel like a number. It's not a big deal. Nobody is sitting there worrying about me. It's literally like, okay, we just got to churn everything out. But at Starbucks, at Tiffany's, I would have a personal shopper. So somebody I can talk to and say, yeah, I'm thinking about buying this, and then would talk to me personally. And at Starbucks, they know me, and I don't, I come in a lot, but they know me. So I wanted to think about, again, do you treat that person like a number or like an actual person. And if you want a high-end business, you have to treat people like they're important because they're willing to put their money down because they want to feel important. They want to feel like they are heard. They want to know that what they're doing is going to be taken care of. That is, again, a very big distinction between the two business models. And in the middle, you could go either way. So I want to thank you guys for being here. And before we go, I want to suggest that you guys check out my website, which is savvygroomer.com. There you can find out more about me, more about my business coaching, and also my online course. My online course is a 12-week course called Personal Finance on a Leash, where I walk you through how to go from surviving to thriving financially. My course, Personal Finance Leash, is open right now for independent study. We will not be opening a live class until January. But if you want to get a head start, you're more than welcome to sign up. I'm also going to be launching a new live masterclass, which will be about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And so with that class, sorry, Rory, is actually going to be, give me 1 second, get my notes. Just being very silly. So my new live masterclass is going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And what it's going to be called is If They're Not My Customer, Then Who Is? So similar to what we just talked about and in that live series, I want to talk about now, if these people aren't my customer, who is and how do I get them? And I think that'll be a really fun thing to do is work on exactly who your ideal client avatar is and is your current practices actually getting you towards those people. We're going to be offering 3 hot seats, which means that this person will actually be able to work through what is happening. So you will be able to ask questions about your exact business. These will be only 3 seats available. If you don't want to, and that'll be for $97. If you want to just come live and join in and ask questions live, that will only be $47. And if you would like the replay, then we will be able to send you just the replay at $29. And if you're interested in joining my masterclass, go ahead and email me at savvygroomer.com. I should say savvygroomer@gmail.com. I'm so sorry. And I would love to hear from you. You can also message me either below in the comments or also on Facebook. You can message me right on Facebook at the Savvy Groomer. If you just type that in, you will see my business page. And if you message me, I can message you back within just a few hours. So I really am excited to have you guys here and talking with you. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week. All right, guys. Happy grooming.